figure out the key situation in the interim. So I think commit Dave to figuring out a solution. It makes no sense for us to have access to their lockbox, but on the other hand, the only key that's in the lockbox is the key for the atrium, because the communication center is badged, right?
Right, and I'm looking to bring over the key, the master system from the current building, just rekey.
So, Mr. Chair, I believe that the board is all present, so the next step would be to resume the meeting now at this location. Obviously, Ashley and I are pushing for some decisions specific as it impacts the CIP, in that we want to have a comprehensive CIP discussion at your budget meeting on the 13th. I'm going to turn it over to Ashley if there's anything in particular.
Welcome.
Mr. Chair and board members, as discussed at our last meeting, we provided you with a copy of the CIP last several meetings just to get an idea so we can put that in the budget as we prepare to determine what 2027 looks like. Just a reminder, we decided to hold off on adding anything in regards to the Annex Building or the Admin Building, pending this tour of the Annex Building over there into the CIP. So ideally what I would ask is that we have a decision if we plan to work with any projects or funding towards that building in 2027 in order for us to put together a budget for you guys to review on the 13th and begin the final or the further preparations for the 2027 budget so we can meet the required deadlines and timelines of getting a complete budget and a preliminary plan put together.
Okay, so we toured the Annex Building. Is there any discussion about the Annex Building?
Mr. Chair, I have a comment.
Yes, here.
So I found the exterior, the envelope of that building to be in better condition than I anticipated. I look at that as being probably one of the major or one of the biggest costs of building, either brick or the exterior of that building, as well as the roof. Now, we don't know what the roof structure itself looks like underneath that. Obviously, there's been some leaking, but to what extent, we don't know.
Did you look up in the hole though?
We did. Yeah.
So you saw the wood slats and the zip ties holding the trusses together? Maybe you didn't go into that portion of the roof structure. Tanner's office, the tiles are down so you can see exactly.
Right, so Renee, we all know that there have been some leaks up there. I certainly understand that. The question is to what extent. We don't know to what extent without digging deeper into it. We did open a hatch and look in there on the one end. It's my understanding there was no other hatch to get in on the other end, but the end we looked in, it was dry. Clearly it's leaking on the one side. That's the roof part of it. If we look at as I told, the basement is leaking. Of course the basement's leaking because it's sloping the wrong direction. We got to get the water running away from the structure for starters. So I think there's some things that if we decide that the route we're going to go is keep that building and make some necessary repairs that we all know need to happen, and then at some point look at restructuring the inside or changing the layout so that it flows better and works better. And part of that discussion should also be what are we going to do with the extension, because that's going to free up a bunch of space. I can tell you I'm not in the camp that I'm going to go down the road and we're going to throw that building away or knock it down and build a new building. I don't think that makes fiscal sense in my mind. I know there's been some numbers thrown about here. I don't know what numbers were used on the roof, because my guess is we used a high number because you don't want to undershoot. I just don't think it makes sense to abandon that building and build a new building, in my mind. But I was anticipating a lot worse on the brick. On the outside, there are some cracks. Buildings settle, but it wasn't extensive by any means.
I wouldn't put a dime into it.
Okay.
That's my opinion. I mean, you look at the ceiling tiles, they're all warped because there's obviously moisture in there. I can't figure out why that building hasn't been touched in 10 years. Why is this all of a sudden addressed now? Why wasn't this talked about 5 years ago or before that? And if the roof's been, I heard about the roof leaking when I was at the city stuff.
Right, so they've made repairs to the roof. Okay,
So, but you could put $8 million into that building and be okay with it?
I don't think we need it, that's my point.
In that, is it the old part? I'd like to see what a structural engineer would say about that floor above this basement. Because it's red brick blended in with concrete and rebar. Is that structurally sound? They may have done that 40, 50 years ago, but I haven't seen that since then.
No.
So, I mean, there's things that we would have to do before, is there black mold behind the walls?
We don't know any of that.
Right, that's why I'm asking. Like, I have a hard time.
But how do you make a decision if you don't know the answers to those questions?
We have break rooms in there that are about as wide as this table. How can you put our
I've already
employees
made
into
it,
that?
so I'm not gonna argue with you, but I've already made the comment that if we move extension out of there, it's gonna free up space and we can reconfigure.
But
I don't think you can argue
I
that
think
point.
that you'd have to tear the roof off, and then you'd have to basically gut the whole inside. Because everything is gonna have to be up to today's standards. There's no way you're gonna be able to just piecemeal that.
So if you're advocating that I said we're gonna piecemeal it,
No,
that's
I'm
not
just
what I
saying,
said.
I'm saying that there's no way you're gonna be able to.
Well, I agree with you, you shouldn't piecemeal it.
But I'd like to see how that's gonna look to me, it doesn't make sense to put the money into there if we can make it the way we wanna make it right here, having it all in one place. I asked Renee, is there a way we could use that building for something else? Can we rent it out? Can we sell it?
So it's not good enough for us to use
I would-
or renovate,
I would-
or we're
I would
gonna
bulldoze
put
it.
somebody else in there?
No, I'm just saying,
Well, that's what I
I
just
wouldn't,
heard you ask.
I wouldn't use it. I wouldn't put our employees in there, so I don't think anybody else should feel comfortable in there.
I agree with Josh. I wouldn't put any more money in that building than we absolutely had to until we got an addition built onto this building. I don't think it's a healthy workspace for our employees. It's certainly not a healthy workspace for our clients. It doesn't accomplish what we've worked so hard to do as far as synergizing public health and human services together in one location to make it easier for our clients. And I think we've done a great job of being fiscally responsible with our debt service, and it fits into the debt service without adding to the levy. And I think we've shown over the course of time that we've been very fiscally responsible with the tax dollars we've been granted by the citizens. And I look at most of what needs to be done there, and most of it's maintenance, which if I kind of remember right, that's not something you use reserves for. So that then becomes levy dollars. And so I cannot see putting any more money in that building than we have to keep it functional until we can get something done that accomplishes what we were after with bringing human services back inside and making a synergy between public health and human services, and maybe doing some cross-training and putting people in different departments. So it makes perfect sense for the customer walking in the front door. They have one place to go, and I think that building has served us well. I shouldn't say that. It's served us, I wouldn't say well. I am very pleased that we've kept the staff we've kept with the working conditions down there, because I think those offices are atrocious. Building smells. And I would question the air quality in that building. I just don't think it's a good work environment, either for our staff or the clients they serve. Irregardless of the extension.
So you, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
so to put a new roof on that, you couldn't use reserve dollars?
Depends on the useful life of the roof as to whether it constitutes a capital improvement or whether it's considered a repair. Pretty much everything below the roof, however, would have to be levy dollars. And we've been holding
I
off.
guess Mr. Chair, I disagree with some of those comments that we have air handlers in there and his staff is doing a good job with that building. I don't think it smells.
Oh.
We had people comment in my group said, I don't think it smells down here. I agree, it's an old building, but we don't throw old buildings away. There's lots of old buildings in this town that are functioning very well. The oldest building at Federer is a lot older than this building. They didn't tear that down.
I'm not going.
Well, it's true, right?
Which building?
I'm not
The
going.
main building at Federer.
The one that they just a bunch of money in?
Right, right. But they didn't tear it down, did they?
Well,
They poured money into it.
I'm guessing
And
because it's
on top.
historic and they have the money to do it. There's
We can
two
back and
bathrooms.
forth all day.
There's 40 employees and 2 bathrooms on the west side.
Yeah, I agreed on everything you said. You can reconfigure that.
But as soon as you reconfigure it, you're talking big dollars. You're not gonna just piecemeal 2 bathrooms in without making it all ADA accessible.
So I've never said piecemeal, so don't say I said piecemeal, because that's not where I'm going
But you're
with this.
willing to put $1 million into the roof?
Is it $1 million?
I don't know. I mean,
Well, you
that's
threw the number out.
even $500,000.
Yeah, I'd put $500,000 into the roof. Absolutely.
And then what's the life of the building?
Well, the exterior that's 100-year
So
brick
why
on that
didn't you do
building
that
is
5 years
50 years.
ago?
Good
That
question.
is a good question.
I can tell you that Federated spent $5 million on just one floor, and the third floor they're gonna spend another $5 million, just because I was just in it and I know what they spent, they told me.
So I'm not comparing dollars, I'm drawing a comparison on, it's an old building and this is an old building. We can compare dollars all day long, but that's not where I was going.
Jake?
So to answer the question about why we didn't put a roof on 5 years ago, I think the roof has been on the CIP for the whole 5 years. I think obviously when we first started the space study back in 2020, that building was brought up. Is that a remodel? What do we need to do there? We knew back then it wasn't adequate for public health and all that good stuff. So I think the decision was made, okay, well, until we make that decision, we basically kind of kept, foregoing the roof because we, anticipated a large project there. So that's kind of the history on why that roof is, but yes, it probably should have been done 10 years ago.
Right. I know nothing's been done since I've been here.
And I think Amber's been there
20 plus years?
20 plus years and nothing's ever been, we've got the old dorm style doors yet.
There's stuff been done. There's new boilers in there. There's repairs that have been made.
Right.
Mr. Chair, when I'm from the tour, what I see is, when I walk through there, I see a lot of wasted space, and the building just isn't handy the way it is right now. It's just, maybe it does need a total new configuration, but we don't know, we never seen what it could look like. We don't know what the roof will cost. Everybody's just guessing.
Mm-hmm.
Is it 100,000? Is it $1 million? We don't know. We don't know on that, but I know we're in a tight spot now. We'd like to get the health and human services together, and if we did fix the building, what are we going to do with all those people in that meantime? I know that'd be a bugger. But I also know that, quite frankly, the people in this community are butt up to their eyeballs, and they call it mismanagement if you don't take care of a building or keep it up. And I don't want to be like other forms of government around here.
I would agree with that.
People are tired of, they're getting pushed to the limit. I mean, it's just one thing after another, and then
So we have that-
another $1.5 million on the pool,
Yeah,
and people are getting on edge, and
but we can't. My point is that that's a reason why I wouldn't put the extra money into that, because if we're not sure that's gonna last 20 more years, then we're not being fiscally responsible by adding more to it.
but
We need to figure out what the common ground, or
to make a decision,
middle
to
ground.
make a good decision, you gotta know what the heck the roof's gonna cost.
Oh,
Is
right.
it- Maybe there ain't even a roof left under there. I mean, it's wheezing all down the east side, it's just wheezing. You know, if you open it up, it's just all shot, well, help me make my decision, or what the cost is gonna be, but,
Then we need to do that now. We can't just keep kicking it down the road.
but,
Whatever it is we need to do, we need to
you
figure it
know,
out.
in far as the basement, you know, everybody's basement in their house is kinda like that, but, you know,
That was the cleanest part of it.
Actually,
And it
if you
ain't-
talk about the basement, there's a wet spot.
it's.
If you slope the ground away, it's gonna help.
But people are in there 24/7, you know, they say people thought they got the head cold or, you know, affected down in there for a day, but I don't know, I wasn't there, I can't tell you. But, you know, it's just storage. I didn't realize how much stuff the county has stored in that basement. It's mind-boggling, you know. So that was an eye-opener for me, to see how much books, records, old artifacts are probably 150, 200 years old down there.
I thought that looked pretty good.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
and then upstairs, the extension, man, you talk about storage and stuff, boy, these arts and crafts take a lot of room. Unbelievable. So, I don't know what would you do with all that stuff too? You gotta build another building just to put that stuff in? So, and then I'm still questioning about this. We got enough parking back here? Do we have enough parking back here without that? I went through there and I think I counted about 30-some vehicles, and I figured that was at least employees, and then there's another 10, 15 on top of that.
We have to do a kind of evaluation of
You
this.
go back and count the empty spaces back here, we'll be running pretty tight.
Probably have to think about how we expand parking out front for if you're going to add on this building. So that'd be part of figuring out the addition would be the parking load and some of that type of stuff.
You know, then I said, when you look at the cost of your building, and then there's another $3,162,000 for interior and renovation of this after you put the addition on?
You can't count that in what we're talking about. You gotta compare apples to apples. Those are some add-ons that came up that, I mean, that's talking about a new roof on this building and,
Oh, in this $3 million?
yeah.
Okay.
You can talk about the parking though. That should be a factor in this.
I didn't say you couldn't.
No, I just wanted to clarify that.
So in the cost per square foot for the addition, there is a site component to it. So the budget that we have in there for the addition onto this building would include some amount of site work. So, you know, we're in the early planning stages, so that's something that would come out of the, design process to figure out how it connects, where's the lobby, where are those shared spaces, how much inside this building we have to touch. And so those are why when we put those budgets together, we want to make sure we're talking about all of those things, but it's an apples to apples comparison to the addition to what their needs are, and that's that construction dollar that Commissioner Kruger said.
Jake, do you have some?
So the roof. So I think it was last fall, we had Diverse Construction give us a price for a 10-year roof basically, and that price was $400,000. So just, and I know we put $850 in there, but again, because we don't know what's under there, right? So we want to just put 400, and then all of a sudden, hey guys, I need another 400,000 because we found, again, until we did the inspection and, obviously we'd have firm budgets, but just replace the roof, given everything is good under there, for a 10-year roof, it was, and when I say 10-year warranty, so that's probably a 12, 15-year roof for 400,000.
I think that this side of the building the air felt good, everything felt good. I think that's too nice a building to tear down. I wish we could get a stronger number on the estimate on the roof before we make a decision. Also, the walls inside that half and the other half, we don't know if they're bearing. I think you told me that you think could be opened, right? We could do partitions or whatever to make it more private for the public health people, and the entrance being more open for the public.
How's it set up there? I've never been
Cubicles.
up there.
There's some offices.
So they can have it like that with HIPAA, like
Well, the
I'm sure
public's
there's
gonna allow it.
private space when they have to.
But remember the type of care that's being offered in public health, they're actually working with clients, infants, children, pregnant women, the elderly. So they've got, a revolving door of the public, where here, most of the mental health services are being provided by Sparrow, which is a completely different building. So when it comes to privacy, being able to have a conversation with a patient, cubicles don't go very far in public health, unfortunately. And if we want to embed human services in public health, we absolutely need secure data private rooms, which aren't going to be more cubicles.
So, I don't know if they're load bearing or not. I don't think they are by looking at it. You thought the roof spanned?
It does appear just the way the wall construction looks.
I guess I'd like to know that stuff and have a stronger, if diversified bid at 400,000, would a 30-year roof cost 500,000? I don't know. I think to me it's too good of a building weather to tear down. I think if we build an addition and tear that down, that my phone would ring off the hook, the taxpayers would be upset. That's my 2 bits.
I think we need to know what's behind the walls, what the roof actually looks like underneath. Or if we're gonna go that route, do we add an addition on that building, close it off through the middle and the back, and then, you know what I mean? Then everything's on the table, and I also think that there should be some study on the inside of that and how you're gonna break that up the right way. I can almost touch the ceiling in some of those, and I don't think that's up to code. If you fix it, I think that's all gonna have to be taken into consideration.
Is that something you guys can look into, or, who?
Yeah.
Yeah, look and see if it can be, user-friendly, with the roof. I don't know, the softened fascia.
Well, we already have some numbers from them. What do those numbers encompass?
Yeah, first one, is that new softened fascia, or?
That 400,000 that I talked to Diverse was basically to get us by for 10 years type thing. So we didn't really discuss any further, on what, because again, we don't know what's under there. I know it's all rotten from the joist up, because that's what's failing, is all the seams, and it's popping. It's basically curling because of the moisture. So it's popping all the nails.
So do we have ventilation issues too, that all the ceiling tiles are all warping? That's gotta be humidity,
Well, we're not reheating in that building, or, dehumidifying, because we don't have, reheat or VABs and,
It's frost what pops the nails, isn't it?
yeah, from the moisture getting under there. And
Right.
I'm talking about the false ceiling.
Well,
I don't know if I saw one that was flat.
Yeah, but you're not dehumidifying in there, so you're gonna have.
May I ask what the cost of a thorough inspection based on the details that you guys are trying to come up with would be an estimate? Do you have any idea? Are we talking?
Are you asking these guys or?
Whoever the experts would be, are we talking 50,000, are we talking 100,000? I mean, you have to look at the foundation, you're talking about looking at the roof, you're talking about looking at the soffits, you're talking about looking down into the walls, you're talking about. So I was just wondering how much would we be looking at to pay for that type of review in order to help come to a decision?
Yeah, is that something that you,
We could get some proposals on it, but I would imagine to get to a structural inspection, if you wanted to look at some of the structural things, just to confirm load bearings, stuff like that, and you wanted to do, a mold inspection, some of that type of stuff, you'd have to hire a environmental group to do some of that stuff, so we're probably in that, 50 to 60 grand to do all of those things, I would guess, but we would have to solicit some proposals from those types of companies that do that kind of work.
We would also need architecture, because putting a new roof doesn't change the fact that it's functionally inadequate for its current
As part of the roof
use.
cost, you need to do some design.
So, it may not be my place, but if I may, if you're just talking about the cost of renovating that building, it's at 6.75, and to basically add it on over here is at 6.75 with an additional 600 for demoing that building, should you choose to do so. And now, if you add on to the current 6.75 that's necessary for restructuring, re-roofing, etc., reconfiguring, you're adding 100,000, 50 to 100,000 on. So now you're basically projecting to spend that same kind of dollar amount, plus maybe 100,000 on that building to build a building over here. It's just food for thought. Ultimately it's your decision, but the more money you put into inspecting and things of that nature, you're creeping closer and closer to the exact same dollar amount that you would to have a new building to achieve collaborative efforts of our human services and our public health.
Unless you move maintenance out 20 years.
Correct. You move maintenance out 20 years and you will anticipate a consistent, probably a very consistent maintenance plan to this building the entire time, if not probably at the max 7 to 10 years. From my perspective, you could consider bonding for that without increasing for an addition, just so you know. I did a brief check-in. There's definitely more to it, some rough numbers. We could bond, say, which we wouldn't even need the whole 15 million. I just threw 15 million just to get quick numbers. Hold on 1 second, let me find a paper. With a schedule of payment of about 1.6 million, which is the same, actually less than the current debt levy that you have had and are having now. So if you started right away, sure, for the first year you might be a little high, but going forward you'd actually reduce your
Where did 15 million come from?
I just threw that out there, just considering if we had to reconfigure this building for 13, and then if we did a roof. So I just said, can you give me what it would cost, $10 to $15 million? If you did a $10 million bond, it'd be a lot less, but I just grabbed, just to get some quick information. So if you look at this one and you say, okay, we decide to do this and do the reconfiguring of this building, we were at 13. So, depending on when you choose to do it and inflation, so I just grabbed a quick number, got some quick information at about 3.5%, which is less than inflation rate. Again, totally just information for you to take into consideration.
So even at 15 million, we wouldn't have to have the levy.
No, not after 2030 when we drop off this last bond that we have.
I appreciate your input, but I think that the $60,000 might make this $8 million number, 4 million or 5, you know? And it's hard to take these, I mean, they're educated guesses, right? The 4 million for renovation, 4.6 includes full mechanical and boiler plant. I mean, we don't know that for sure, right? I mean, it gives us a better educated.
Absolutely, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it, but obviously you talk about having to maybe do an addition based on our space needs, that with that building alone, I think the county, based on what I've heard since I've been here, has identified that there's not enough space in the next 20 years for where our growth is and for our staff, so I think that's something else we have to take into consideration as well, what maybe that looks like. Thank you.
Thank you, Jake.
So back to the boiler plant and stuff. So if you recall, the boilers that we have, as of right now, that company is out of business, locked the doors, can't get parts.
That's for the ones that are put in 17.
Yes, the ones that are currently down there. So I guess my thought is, if you're spending $4 million, let's just say we get it down to $4 million, right? So now we're going to put all this $4 million into there. We should correct all the piping. The electrical should be done. Because otherwise that's stuff that, who knows, we might be in there for 10 years and we start having issues with that. We already know we have a small boiler leak through the pipes. We just don't know where, because it's not showing up anywhere. So I think you want to consider if you choose to tear into that building, that it's major mechanical as well. While you've got it open, like now is the time to do it.
And that 4.6 million was based on your guys' numbers?
Renovation cost numbers, yeah.
Yeah, 4.6 was basically just the renovation.
With the new boiler and,
Yeah, but that didn't include the foundation work, if it needs it, windows,
Reconfiguring.
the roof,
That includes
was not included in there.
I would think.
I would doubt it, because I don't know, do you know when you say reconfiguring, what does that mean?
I think we were thinking full gut renovation of it.
Okay, so it is.
So we cover all of those things we talked about on the tour. Now granted, there are some things to still learn in the building as far as where the structure is confirmed. So there's some layout things that would be dependent upon that, but just for budgeting purposes, that would be full renovation.
I guess Mr. Chair, I just want to bring up one thing. I think one thing that, and I was kind of in the camp I'm in now already, after reading through Psychlogic's analysis of that building. When I went to school, a 25 was an F. And that's what the overall score for that annex building was. And I'm looking at them, and they don't have any skin in the game. They were just brought in to analyze the building, just like they did the courthouse. And they told us our courthouse was in great shape. So, and I look at what their recommendations were, and 146 of 196 reviewed assets exceeded projected life, indicating that many building components are beyond expected useful life. And then it goes on to say why a new addition should be considered. A new addition would provide a more durable, long-term solution while supporting more efficient service delivery. It would allow public health and human services to operate in one location, improving coordination for residents and reducing duplication across departments. It's a one-stop access, brings related services together for a more coordinated resident experience, operational efficiency. It improves staff collaboration and reduces duplication across departments, and lower long-term risk, provides a more predictable facility investment with less future maintenance uncertainty. So that really hit home that building is not where we need to be. Whether we tear it down, whether we we sell it, whether we use it for something else, I don't think it meets our goals when we first went into creating our own human services department of what we were intending to do with having the synergy between public health and human services in the same location to provide better service for the clients that they serve.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So to that, I thought the discussion was we were going to embed some human services in public health to create that synergy. I didn't know that the discussion was we were going to build a building for them to create synergy. I don't recall that. It's a comment because I've heard you say it a couple of times. My recollection was we were going to embed in various areas within our county to create synergy.
Originally, we thought we'd have enough room upstairs for both departments. When we found out we didn't have enough room upstairs, that it didn't work.
So space needs, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the space needs identified, there's enough room in that building for public health minus extension. If extension was in a different location, the building footprint is large enough.
So are we okay with spending, I think, in my eyes, the whole conversation is about $60,000 on whether or not we're willing to spend that to find the right answers before we do anything.
Because what is 60,000 going to get us?
Exact, is the roof failing? Is it okay? Like, I'm not making that decision based on just because I feel like it looks right.
Well, I feel like somebody's already made that determination when they came with a $6 million number to renovate the building. I mean, I'm hoping they did a deep dive when they're throwing these kind of numbers at us.
So,
Or you're saying we need to hire somebody to pay $60,000?
I'm not spending $6 million on that building if we can build
No, I'm not
an
either.
addition for $8. That doesn't make any sense to me.
I'd spend $4 million on that building all day long.
That one?
Yeah, absolutely.
Not a chance.
Structurally, so the components that were identified to give us that 25 score, most of those are items that should be replaced that in a normal cycle. If you look at the estimated useful life, the building envelope on that building is a 100-year brick structure that's 50 years into it. That's one of the biggest costs of that building. So you're going to throw away a building that has 50 years of life left on the structure.
Who said that?
That's what the EUL says.
So then we need to figure out what it's like, because I think there's more to it. I think you're gonna have to determine if, you're basically regutting the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So what is that exact cost?
$4 million, I
$6
think,
million?
well, it's not gonna be, we can get it done a lot cheaper than that. And I like Wold, this isn't a slam on Wold, but I think we need to do our due diligence and get some cost estimates from more than one outfit.
Okay, now I'm gonna question something you just said, as long as you keep questioning everything I'm saying.
Well, not everything, just most of it.
Well, let's not go there.
Okay.
We were told that the majority of that building was built in 1950,
1960.
60?
The electrical panel says
So
67.
that's 40, that's 65 years old.
So electrical
66
panel
years
says 67, so I think the number was wrong, so it's 67.
And this half is 85, right?
We just looked
That,
at
just this end is 85.
So it's
Right.
60 years old then.
Well, if I may, staff needs a decision. Either the board is committing to a complete gut and remodel, or the board is committing to an addition, both of which will likely require bonding, because this is not something we're going to be able to pay for out of reserves. And we need to move forward one direction or another, because what staff also needs is what do we include in the CIP for 27, because the board does need to make some decisions, and a lot of that will hit the levy. Frankly, if I can be so bold, it was a dorm. It was never meant to be an office building. It sure as heck was never meant to be a public health building. So the commitment to the envelope might have to be passed on to somebody else. I don't think it's the county's job to maintain a structure if it's not appropriate for our use. But we can certainly market it, we can certainly sell it, and somebody else can build on that legacy and move forward. There is a smell. I was in the basement in the brand new section for 15 minutes, and I had a headache, my sinuses built up, and we're putting staff there, we're putting infants in there, we're putting pregnant women and all the rest of that thing. I mean, if it was just staff, yeah, maybe we'd look at it differently, but our most vulnerable residents are going into that building. So either the board is committing to a full gut, which might even require an addition to get that functionality, or you're committing to an addition. And then the only question that staff needs answered right now then is how much should we put in the CIP for 27? Because it doesn't make sense to put a roof on a building if you don't know what the configuration of the building is going to be. It doesn't make any sense to try to replace boilers until you know what the building's going to be. But if you give us direction one way or another, then we can send the architects in, we can send the engineers in, and somebody can tell us what it's really going to cost. And at that point, I suppose you could still shift gears and say, well, maybe we sell it and we go with the addition, but there has to be a commitment one way or another, because if the board thinks that, and I know Commissioner Abbey, you've said repeatedly you're not willing to piecemeal, then I think you have to commit to all in. And I don't know that it makes a whole lot of sense to even do the things that are minimally necessary at this point without a commitment that by the end of 27, early 28, we will have a much better space for our employees. Because anything else is really just about putting Band-Aids and lipstick on something that was never really built for what we needed it to be.
So it wasn't a dorm in 85 when they built this part, right? In 85, the orphanage was gone.
Well, we put the addition up.
Yeah, in 1985. So someone in 1985 thought that was a great place to put an addition. So the dorm must have been in the east part?
Jake, you still have dorm doors though, even on the
Yeah.
west side of the building, so I don't know that you can say that.
So the link, what I call the
Yeah.
link, and then the east side would have been all dorm doors. So that would have been the dorm.
Dorm
Who
for
would have built the
the,
addition in 85 then?
dorm for what?
The school orphanage.
Well, the orphanage was in the 40s, was it there?
What was,
That was in there in the 60s yet, right?
yeah, I think, I wanted to say it closed in like 71 or 72, but I don't know that for sure.
We have Google.
That doesn't matter.
Brian, do you have any?
I have nothing on that. So
Yeah, I
I
didn't-
can't, I mean, we have very
I think the
limited
point is
on
an
that.
addition is put on the existing building, right? And it,
Right.
with the idea that that building was functional or could be functional. Now, we can banter back and forth all day. I think the question in my mind is, did anybody look it up, the square foot need of 20 years out or 10 years out? We had some data somewhere that showed what our,
For public health, we have about 11, a little under 11,000 square feet identified for 45 employees.
and the whole total footprint of that building is close to that.
Hang on,
What
I
is
got
it?
that.
17,000, something like that.
3,456.
So there's enough square footage there. That's not what the issue is.
It's a whether it can be configured in a way that works productively, can be part of whatever renovation design.
And to your comment, I am all in, but what's the cost?
Well, and I think,
And I'm not, and I've heard you say it, and I've heard you say that. I said I'm in piecemeal mode. That's not where I've ever
no,
said that.
that's
So-
what you did
so don't
clarify
say
that
that.
you're not doing that, but the point being is that I am not comfortable if we get halfway down the road and all of a sudden we're like, whoa, that wasn't in the budget. So if we're committing to all in, one way or another, then we're gonna put very little in the CIP, but that means that the board is hopefully giving staff direction to bringing in the engineers, bringing in the architects, and figuring out what it would take to truly renovate it. Yes, that is some exploratory money that you would be paying for. We don't have that in the budget now, so that would have to be something that would have to be levied for next year, and we would come back with full-blown plans and specs. And then if the board at that point is like, whoa, we probably should put an addition on, it just means we've lost 6 months worth of planning, but so be it. But then I would want to make sure that we're factoring in where are we going to house the staff while the renovation is going? What does that cost us? Where we don't have the space in this building to do it. So then I would want to make sure that we're all in on a renovation, and then we would we would let our experts go to town and tell the board what that's gonna look like.
So, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
so Wolf's number, the 6,353,000 was just a based square footage multiplier. There was no deep dive in coming up with that number. Okay.
And John, how much was that? Was that 200?
I think the whole building, yes.
Yeah.
But assume the higher construction cost of the level, much less for this.
Assuming that it would be, continue to be used for something, storage or stuff, mechanical, more than likely mechanical spaces and stuff.
So Jake, do you know what you would need to plug the holes in the roof to get us by? I think we need to make sure we've got at least a functioning roof. I think that might be a bit generous for 2 years. That we would be committing to having something done by this time 2028. Can you buy us 2 years?
We can patch. He told me a year and a half, but I can talk him into 2 years.
Throw a little extra bubble gum and duct
Yeah.
tape in there? Good, good, good.
What would we want, what would that be, do you know, so that we could share it with the board so they can determine if that's what they would like to put in the CIP? Did we give you a price on that?
Well, it'd just be a repair, like if it rains and it leaks. So it wouldn't really be a CIP. It would just be a repair.
Okay. But we'd have to levy for it, so I think,
I mean, you look at probably $1,500 to $2,000 because typically there's 2 or 3 spots. Say 8 times, 15,000.
Okay, that's, I just am trying to figure out.
And again, if it's a dry year, you're not gonna have any leaks, right?
And then we would just need to put into the CIP the cost of the assessments.
well, it'd just become a maintenance budget item is what I'm hearing Jake say.
Well, the roof, yes, I'm sorry, the assessments for like the structural evaluation.
I think we put the whole project cost in there, right? And then you basically enter in, it's a design contract.
Well, I think I would want to know from the board, by consensus, which direction are we going? Are we doing a gut and renovation? And all in, whatever that entails, because that's a slippery slope. Once you go 2 steps, you got to be committed to go 4 steps and 6 steps, but obviously budgeting is bidding, designing, and all the rest of that. But I don't want to get halfway down the road, and then we go, whoa, hold it, we're going to shift gears. So if there is consensus amongst the 5 that the footprint of that building is what Steele County needs for public health, then that's the direction we need in terms of pulling numbers together for your 27 budget.
So Renee, could it be possible to do a deeper dive and say we're gonna commit 50,000, 60,000, whatever, and make that decision in 6 months? I mean, does that put you guys in a hard spot, or, I mean, I know we're trying to budget, but we gotta be somewhat flexible too. I mean, you gotta know now, or you gotta know tonight.
We do need to know tonight what we're going to include in the budget in terms of which direction the board's going. So that, unfortunately, the clock is ticking on that because of where you're at with the budget cycle. There's a secondary clock ticking, which is if you kick the can down the road for another year, now I need to get another year or 2 or 3 out of a roof, or whatever other things that are likely to fail. So this is not a new conversation. This is not something we just hit you guys with. The condition of that building is something that the board was at least aware of.
Right.
So,
And it's getting worse because we haven't spent any money on it because we're trying to make this decision. And we said we've been doing a space study since 2020, right? And now it's 26, right?
I got one question for Wolf. Okay, when you look at our current utilization and our 20-year needs here, so over there, public health is utilizing 10,000 square feet right now. And then the 20-year outlook is it might need another 864. So that's 10,800. And then if you look at upstairs here, they might need another 5,000. So that's 15,800. And the new addition is 13,500. We're 2,300 deficit right there. Or am I wrong?
The new addition is just for human services. Public health would go upstairs. I think that's the way it was.
So the upstairs would stay pretty much the same as it is today if you don't want to, if we don't need to do any remodeling up there. And in the addition that was shown 13.5, that was the 10,800 square feet grossed up to include construction, campus spaces, some of those other things. That was at 1.3 or that 1.25 factor that we added on to the net square footage. So it gives you the building square footage, so it's usable versus square footage is the difference there between the two numbers. So the 10,884 square feet is what we calculated for 45 people for public health based on that program.
Okay.
So that's in interior square footage,
Yep.
right, just usable square footage. But in order to make a building out of it, you have to add additional square footage for mechanical spaces or, exterior walls, or circulation, bodies, that kind of stuff. So that's where we get to the 13,500 square feet that's needed in order to replace
Replace that.
But what those
Then
numbers,
when you look, human services, we're deficit down near 5,000 square feet.
I don't think that number is gonna hold based on the study that you guys are doing.
problem is we need to get veteran services up there, and we need to get workforce development up there. So there's a lot going into those numbers that we may not need it for human services, but we do need to get veteran services up there, and we need to get economic development up there. So there's a lot of things going into, does this become health and human services?
When did those come up?
Pardon?
When did those come up?
When we've been talking with the department heads, right now Renee is he needs to be literally down the hall so that his clients are getting access to that whole thing. We just put him in the basement for the time being. So ultimately, the addition may not necessarily be.
He's been down there for 12 years.
He can't be there if we're going to be effective in delivering services. So that's where the debate right now is not the architecture. The debate right now is, are we just going to put lipstick on this thing, or are we all in for a renovation or possibly an addition? I mean, those are kind of the two options for the board right now.
But part of the debate is the square footage, and that was where Commissioner Brady was going with the questioning.
Well, it was my understanding that the addition would be for human services,
It could be,
and that public health was gonna go upstairs.
but we could also have health and human services here and move admin over there, because right now you've got a lot of wasted space around the corner. The point being is I would want the architects to put all that together and give the board some options. But you've got numbers, so that you at least have a number of what an addition would cost. You have a number as to what a renovation might be, and they're pretty darn close. So the board has the opportunity to make a decision here as to you spend the money on new, or do you spend the money on renovation? What I'm hearing is you want to explore renovation. What I'm also hearing is you're all in for one or the other, whichever makes the best outcome, but not a decision to be made tonight. Again, we're trying to figure out what do we budget for 27, and you've already said we want to be sensitive to the taxpayers, but all the things that you're talking about for the 27 would be levied expenses.
And we need to make a decision tonight because we set our budget when?
We've got a meeting on the 13th, and you wanted to start seeing numbers.
If you built a house in 1985, you wouldn't tear it down, you would donate it, right? I mean,
But if it no longer works for your family, you sell it and you buy or build what does work for your family.
Well,
And I think that's my concern.
The addition that was put on in 85 is very small compared to the rest of the building.
Do we know who put that addition on? Was it
But-
the county?
Renee, could we, on the interim, could we make where Mid Prairie is today work for human services?
For human services, yes.
You could make it work.
Now, I'll say that with a grain of salt. Bennett's never been up there. Bennett and HMA have not had a chance to tour it. We know that they've got QBville. We know that as a working space, there's an assumption that a fair number of those individuals are remote and are coming back now under a new plan. So I think.
Full-time.
Pardon?
Like full-time, like not here.
So I think we're taking the assumption based on square footage that it will meet for human services. So that part I'm comfortable with. That part is the least of my concerns, but I do think holistically, this department heads have talked about bringing all of those services together some way, somehow.
Let me finish my thought
Please.
process here.
Sorry.
And public health exists down there. I can't say it probably works really well, but it exists down there. Could we, and I hate to say this,
but could we do a full structural analysis of that building? Put that in the budget for next year and get what everybody's looking for, and then make a better decision, and then also bring us in to the VA and the workforce and all that sort of stuff. This is the first time any of us have heard of it.
Doesn't that have to happen like now? Not in 27? I don't know, because you're wasting 6 months. So we're just gonna sit on it until January of 27? Because I think that's what we're basing everything off of. That decision is based on that study.
Well, yeah, but it sounds like that's what everybody's looking for is, you know,
Right.
in essence, what kind of shape is that building actually in? What's under the roof? I heard load-bearing walls, I heard structural analysis, I heard, you know, all of that sort of stuff. Maybe it does make sense to spend that 50 or 60 grand to come up with an educated decision.
100%. I'm not making that decision by looking myself. I'm not a professional, so
Yeah.
I can make assumptions, but I'm not gonna do that. It's not my, that's why we're here. This is taxpayers are paying the bill.
That's why we're asking the questions we're asking.
100%. That's why I'm saying we need to have a professional tell us that it's okay. This is
So-
what you need to do.
Is the consensus of the board that your first option, your first preference is to rehab what you've got over there? Is that what I'm hearing?
Depending on the dollar.
That's not what I said.
Nobody has said that.
No, but I'm trying to get direction from the board, which is,
Well, I just threw another option out on the table.
I think the consensus of the board is we need more data or more information before we can make a determination if that's the direction we want to go.
I think I would like to see the 50, 60,000 spent right away to get the exact number, but then
Well, I don't think you're gonna get it done overnight.
No.
It'll take a while to get
it
somebody
could
in
take 2
here.
months, yeah, but I'm just saying we can't wait on it. But if we're gonna fully redo that building and we're gutting it, what's that cost really gonna look like based on those findings?
Yeah. Then we got a
But
true
we're-
picture.
But where we sit tonight, we're being asked to make a decision without that information.
Well, I don't think we can.
I just threw
Exactly.
another option out on the table.
That's the one I prefer.
Yeah, I do as well.
You know, I know that, and it doesn't change your work, it just, you know, it just basically stalls it off for a year.
So what I'm hearing is that we would like to put in about $20,000 in a maintenance budget
To do
address
just what
the
we
roof.
have to do.
Well, yeah, to address the roof leaks as a maintenance budget, and then you're asking to have a deeper dive inspection analysis, which again, I think Commissioner Prokopek, really correct me if I'm wrong, is correct that we would probably have to wait until 2027 because we would need to levy for that inspection. But in addition to that, we wouldn't have final numbers soon enough to do anything in our 2027 budget, because if it takes several months to do that inspection, you're looking at the, like September, October time that you might get those results. We'd already have to have our preliminary completed and finished. We can't go up in our budget after the preliminary. So we would probably have to live with that until 2028. Would that be accurate, Renee?
I don't know that, it's an accurate summary. I still go back to the fundamental question, which is, do you believe the footprint of that building meets Steele County's needs? I mean, you can gut it, you can do all the fancy schmancies you want. Does that footprint meet our needs? And if that's the consensus of the board, then we're all in on a remodel, but we'll get additional information, obviously. But I think that's where I just needed to hear you say that you're gonna tell staff and you're gonna tell everybody you believe that footprint is at least worthy of additional consideration. And I'm thinking it'll probably end up being probably closer to $100,000 because you're gonna need to bring in architecture and make sure that you design it to meet the needs of the people that are gonna be there. And, you know, we're not even gonna put the entire extension, we'll need to find a new home for them. But I'd also wanna know what's it gonna cost to temporarily house the employees and the clients for that period of time so that the board knows exactly what they're all in with before you make your final decision as to whether it's an addition or a renovation. And then lastly, I need Jake to run some numbers, which is what can we do to keep that building functional in its current state for probably 3 years.
Sorry, if I may, so just circle back around, I think what you're saying is, if you guys would decide, like, for example, your first primary consideration would be to renovate depending on the outcome of that analysis, then we could put that in the budget for 2027, so that we wouldn't have to wait an additional, basically, 18 months to start doing something. But if we choose just to only put the assessment in the budget, then I think we're very much prolonging it. So if you say no, our intention would be then to do the add-on, then you wouldn't want to put the money in the budget for the renovation. So I think at the end of the day, if you would just say that, if you would give us guidance as to what your direction or your preference is, we could budget based around that, knowing that if that inspection comes back and it's a lot better and we have better terms and conditions and it's only $4 million or it's a total loss, then we can pivot. But if we choose only to do the inspection right now, then you're looking at probably not being able to do anything as a result of the budget planning process until January 2029. So I think that's part of the reason why we just are asking for more of a long-term plan versus just not only just the inspection. Yes, we plan to do that. We hear you. You want that. But what would be your preference so that we can maybe just plan for that?
That'll determine our preference, I think.
Well, there's 3 things right now that I don't know. I don't know, how bad the roof is, so that's a dollar deal. But can that thing be consumer friendly, redone? Is that possible? Yes or no? I don't know that. And I already forgot what the other thing was.
Mr.
But
Chair,
no,
after he's done.
no, I lost my train of thought for the third thing.
I was trying to bail him out.
But no, yeah, I'll think of it. Go ahead.
So we,
Oh, I know what it is. And it'll be if we do a total re-gut of that and redo, what I asked before, what are we gonna do with the 40 employees, or where are they gonna be, and, that's the one thing why they're pushing the new one, because that would be an easy deal, keep them working there until this is ready, but that's, what are we gonna do with them? That's my question. You forgot?
I didn't forget. I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this gently without coming across
being
sounding
rude?
like a.
Okay, that's all right. Don't, you can't
I guess
hurt
I'm
my
just gonna
feelings. You
throw
can't
it
hurt
out
my
there.
feelings, Jim, don't worry about it.
I'm not gonna hurt your feelings. I don't think I'm gonna hurt anyone's feelings. That's not the intent here. We do projects and we get 2-3 bids. We talk to different contractors. We've worked with Wold a lot. I appreciate everything Wold does, and I'm not trying to insult anyone, but maybe we get a different opinion. We get a different firm in there, or somebody else that does the same thing, but maybe has a different view or a vision and says, absolutely, this can be done.
Or even a contractor.
Or even a contractor. I mean,
Give us a bid on putting a roof in and remodeling this.
Well, then we can plan specs, engineering, and all the rest of that. So I
of
think,
course, but we can do that.
But you gotta have somebody with the expertise that knows how to redesign a facility to meet the needs of public health. And a general contractor's not gonna be able to do that.
so if I may, I think let staff work with the consultants that we already have a relationship with to see timeline. How long would it take? How long would it cost to get you the information that you need And hopefully you've been direct and honest with us that if we get that information, you're gonna be in a place to make a decision. And that we're not gonna be like, well, we need 3 more things. Because time is, it is a limited commodity at this point because of what we've got over there. So I think we wanna make sure that if there's other things you want us to be researching, let us know. We're gonna put a pretty hefty placeholder in the 27 budget so that we've at least got some room to play with. But in the meantime, we'll get some numbers and some estimates for doing that design work, doing that engineering analysis and that sort of thing. And I don't know that bringing in a third party, we've got SiteLogic and we'll, sitting in the room here that have heard the conversation, we can start with them and see what they can offer. And then maybe they've got some recommendations as to who a third party might be, to put together a proposal. Because this is not actually doing the work, but it's the proposal for doing the work. And then the timetable to get it done. And then we can bring that back and make that part of the meeting on 23rd, for the 13th of February. Gosh, wrong month. The 13th of July. And then in the meantime, Ashley will put some placeholders in based on Jake's advice and recommendation in terms of what it's going to take to keep that building functional for 3 years.
Our debt structure goes off and
I'm sorry,
our
sir.
debt structure drops in
It actually drops some this year.
Okay.
We will drop off one of them, and then the other one that you have drops off on 2030.
Okay, thank you. Good.
So I'm not advocating bringing in another vendor. You completely dismissed what I said. I said maybe it would behoove us to look at a different contractor, they're a different architect and engineering firm that can give us a different view or a different vision. You get 2 or 3 bids on projects every day. You get different opinions every day on projects. I get the timeline and we're being pressed here, but I feel like I'm getting a hard press and I don't like it.
Yeah, Rob.
Question on our armies and our reserves policy. What is the board's policy on use of reserves for, say, a study? Is that allowed?
For what?
To do a further study of that building, is it allowed under our reserve use policy?
The county will consider the use of fund balance surpluses for one-time expenditures that are non-recurring in nature and which will not require additional future expenditure outlays for maintenance, additional staffing, or other recurring expenditures. So at least under this policy, the expectation is something tangible, capital in nature. Generally, studies aren't deemed capital.
We don't have a slush fund.
No.
Absolutely not. We don't even use that word.
Sorry.
What is the matter with you?
There's no monies that.
Rob.
Oh,
They must have one at the attorney's office.
oh my God. I think I better
$7?
speak out.
$500
Oh.
I got.
So
I better
Fredo,
speak
are
out.
you confident that if we work with Wold and SiteLogic and came with a couple of proposals that you would feel comfortable that you're getting diversity of opinion and view? That's where I heard you say you wanted to bring in somebody new to the equation. I've got 2 organizations sitting in the room that have heard this conversation. They would be my first go-tos.
I'm not asking for a third, I'm asking for, again, no offense here, but someone other than Wolf. Well, we've hitched our wagon to Wolf for a lot of projects, and I think there are lots of firms out there that do the exact same thing, that may have a different opinion or vision and walk in and say, absolutely, this works, and we can make it work.
So if we went with SiteLogic and one other, do you find that would be at least a good start?
Well, I didn't even know about SiteLogic till last meeting, and I didn't know they were brought into the fold, so.
We haven't officially brought them in yet, but this could be an opportunity.
Is there a cost with SiteLogic? I mean, we don't even know that.
There's not.
Do you do this for free? You stand out in that heat today and they for free?
Our approach is different. Our approach is, we do a lot of the research for you when we provide solutions and funding, sort of similar to other, competitors. We don't believe in charging upfront for it. However, our pay, because we still need to pay our people, comes through a project assignment. So if there was a project, say Logic would be helping to manage that. But
To manage the construction part of it, or?
what's that?
To manage what part
All
of it?
Architecture, engineering, commissioning. We're a one-stop shop, if you will, and construction management. So helping to manage the project.
So at what time do we talk numbers with you guys then after we make a decision to build, or? I mean,
If you're asking us to put some of those things together, we'd be happy to do so.
They'll be coming to Property and Maintenance on July 7th to talk to the board members on that policy committee, and then our plan was to bring them to the full board to talk about their organization. So yeah, we're kind of a little bit backdooring the topic, but they were willing to do an analysis for us to show us what they're capable of as a way for Jake and I to make a decision as to whether we wanted to move forward with them. We liked what they had put together, so we'll be bringing them to the policy committee July 7th and then probably the full board on the 14th.
so there's no cost so far, but if we move forward, there'd be a cost, or? If we ask for engineering on that, would there be a cost?
There's different arrangements that we have that we can do if there's no project. There are break fees, if you will. But we base it off of a square footage cost, and that's something that we just would want to visit more to understand kind of what you're asking us to study. Because there's only one building, that's different than studying all of the facilities in the county, which is typically what we do when we come into an organization. We study every one of the facilities. We populate my study queue, which you got just a little bit of a flavor of, which is a capital, the asset management / capital planning tool that's interactive as well. But on the 7th, you're going to see probably more for those who are on the facilities committee. Did I answer your questions, Jared?
Kinda.
Okay.
So
You're asking about if there's an upfront cost. There's no upfront cost to you. If you choose not to do a project with us, there would be a break fee based upon the square footage agreement that we have with the company.
So in the past, we paid Wold, and now we pay Wold and you? Or,
I don't know.
I don't know either, I'm asking.
So
So
basically,
you'd fit the bill for the next 6 months if you put all that, we'll pay you on January 1st if we can get all this information before then?
so basically, do you remember, I would liken it to ICS when they kind of came in and did that study here a couple of years ago. And then they ran a couple of projects, and I don't know what their fee structure was like, because that was kind of before my time, but that's kind of the same angle or track, I guess, that SiteLogic.
On a very small scale, I think, Mr. Abbey, did you work with Spyglass? A while back, I was pretty sure they told me that they worked with you, which is a technology company, and they look at your technology fees. And so it's a similar thing. I think if you work with them, they find the savings, give you the information, then if you act on the things that they give you, then that's what it is. But I think it's, again, much different scale, much different thing, but similar type of service. Structure.
If I may, Commissioner.
Yes.
So we're all apples to apples here. So we, as well, because we value our relationship with Steele County and the work that we've done together, we're not charging for this planning effort that we've been working on. So I just want to make sure that we're all on the same playing field as far as pro bono work and stuff like that. So we do value our relationship with the county. We do take direction from the board as far as what your goals and objectives are for projects, which then triggers the outcomes that we present. If those principles change, if the ideas that we all kind of worked on together have shifted, whether it's doing a deeper study on the current building, that's all information that we need to get from county leaders in order for us to be able to put forward options that meet your objectives. So we don't really have any skin in the game, if you will, as far as which direction we go. Our goal is to provide you ideas and options based on criteria that we get back from the board. So if now the discussion is more focused on, let's see if we can get a good bang for our buck out of the existing public health building, then we're happy to take a look at it. It hasn't been something that's been on the table, so why you don't have options for that other than maintenance issues and overall general costs, because we haven't had a deeper conversation as to whether or not we want to take a look as to can we reuse that building.
So where was the discussion? Was the discussion all along that, we want a new building? So, because I'm hearing you didn't have any direction on that being an option to remodel.
During the first master plan, which set up where we are today, and we're looking at the stuff, there was consensus by the board at that time that reinvestment in that building wasn't something that was going to happen. This is what that report says, and so that's where we were at that time. Now, if the discussion is changing, then we're happy to update those ideas.
Right, and we wouldn't proceed with bubble diagrams, until we kind of had if you remember from last time, we kind of went through that chart of here's all the projects. We kicked off this, we kicked off that, and then we got to like the sheriff's edition. Okay, we're gonna put it on over there. So then from there, that's when the kind of the bubble diagrams came in to play, kind of when we got that direction to go down that avenue. So I think obviously the discussion here has been the remodel or the addition, right? So I don't know that we ever got that direction on which way to offer concepts.
And I think some people will want one or the other, but to make an educated decision, I think it makes sense to spend that money and go there.
And just to completely, fully clarify, as you're talking about testing of the building, you would be bringing in somebody that is an environmental specialist to look at doing testing of the roof and testing of the walls and all that type of stuff. So that is something that is different than doing kind of planning stuff. So that's just, I want to make sure we're on the same page as far as where that would come from, that information.
Yeah, I would be looking for estimates that are very comprehensive in terms of whether we have to pothole the walls, pothole the ceilings, to really give you guys a more accurate picture of what's there. We'll get estimates for how much that type of work would cost and how long it would take, and bring that back to the board. But we've moved beyond just eyeballing it or people opening up holes in the ceilings and going, yep, it looks okay. We're going to bring in the experts and we're going to tell you what you've got over there.
Okay. Sounds great. Been a long road, but we'll get there.
Okay, so we'll add in maintenance for that and then add in approved projection just as a placeholder for 2020.
Yeah, get your numbers from Jake in terms of.
Bring that one and come up with it.
I have one more question. So the people, does Jake find them, or do you find them, or do you find them together, or how?
Work together. There are companies that work that can do that.
Your question?
Oh, I just wondered what his timeline was because I'm pushing them hard to give me numbers for the budget stuff for the 13th. I'm telling he can't go home and go to bed. He's got work to do.
Oh,
That's what
gotcha.
I'm telling him.
Is there any more to be brought up?
Maybe going
Oh,
over these
yeah.
yesterday.
Well, we were more concerned about what to add to that or take from that related to the annex. But what I've heard from the board this evening, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that you've committed to either a substantial renovation over there or an addition. I've not heard anyone say that they have an appetite for just throwing money at the building and trying to get by for the next 5 to 10 years. So some of the stuff that was in the CIP was really more to buy time, more than just the 3 years to get us to a final product. So,
Well, I think it's $800,000 in there for 27. I don't think that's not by time.
well, I would not recommend to the board that you move forward with any kind of a roof project
No.
until you know what
Right,
you're,
yeah.
yeah, so.
100%.
So the other items that are on the CIP, if the board has strong feelings that you want things off that list, that's kind of what we had asked for last week as part of your homework, but we will build your, kind of that budget presentation for the 13th around all the projects on that CIP, utilizing the different funding resources that had been identified. And I do believe there was roughly about a $2.5 million component that would be a levy-based expense, 850 being a piece of that. And then there were a couple of other things that we would probably defer to 28 if the board opts to go an addition, which you're telling me that's kind of your second choice at this point until you get those numbers. So whether we choose to move forward, for example, with the generators or the roof on this building, we could probably push that out a year because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to size a generator for a building that's going to be bigger.
Right. Any other questions, Jim?
No, but I have one thing to add. I'd ask other commissioners to take a drive through the detention out there and look at the parking lot and make your own decision if you think you should spend $1.8 million on that next year.
But I was gonna ask that question, is that something we're talking about on the 13th then, or are we supposed to talk about that now?
I think we're just looking for the hell no's, and then everything else would be up for discussion. I've heard from several commissioners that you don't want to make a final decision on CIP items until you know what the levy impacts are going to be. So we've got a little bit more work to do on our end.
I think I'm still in that camp.
What camp?
The camp that I'm not willing to take anything off the CIP until we know what our levy impact is going to be. Then we can start looking at possibly moving them around. We all know those CIPs are fluid. There's things that can get you bigger too. Just like an estimated useful life, same thing. Yeah, I have a couple items, but we can talk about that on the 13th that I think would be better suited moved out a year or two. I'd like to see a little more balance in that. It's pretty heavy these couple of years, and there's a couple of years where there's not much, so I'd like to see that spread out over the next five years.
Well, and this probably is not a secret to a few of you, but my hope in adopting a master facilities plan is that you will commit to a certain dollar amount year over year for CIP, and it'll just be built into the budget assumption, and that we will try to level those things out so that it doesn't come back as a, oh, you know, we got to do this, but rather you look at it over a 5-10 year horizon and say we're committing, in essence, in advance that this will be part of our overall budget for the following year.
We don't want to get caught in the same scenario as.
Don't say it.
Who's that?
Well,
Deal.
but if we're gonna cut out $850,000, what's the next priority? Is that
Well, you're not gonna cut all that out because you've got some maintenance and.
Well, yeah, you might have $100,000 into it, whatever, but I'm just saying that we should be still using what we should be using to improve, not kick it down the road.
Yep.
Because otherwise we're gonna end up right where this annex thing is right now, 10 years from now.
Right. I agree.
So we'll do some homework and bring some numbers back to you in terms of what it would cost to do that deeper dive that you've all asked for.
Thank you.
Is there anything else to be brought up at this meeting? Been a move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Approve, same sign. Motion carries.
Thanks, everybody.
Jim, did you drive by it? Did you drive by it?
I drove by.
Yeah.
I drove around.
I didn't drive, I'll drive by it.
Driving there. All around the whole.
Because I drive by it all.